Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and today Apple released iOS 16 Beta 2. This is available to developers. Apple has said that the public beta will be available in July. Now this was released alongside iPadOS 16 Beta 2, watchOS 9 Beta 2, tvOS 16 Beta 2, macOS 13 Ventura Beta 2, and HomePodOS 16 Beta 2. All of those are available for developers right now. And this particular update came in at 1.83 gigabytes on my 13 Pro Max, and it was under 2 gigabytes on all the devices here. So not a giant update, but it does have some significant changes in it. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the build number and talk about what's new. So we'll go to Settings, then we'll go to General, then About. You can see the update is 20A5303I, and this particular update includes improvements and bug fixes for your iPhone, according to Apple. Now the first thing is there is a modem update in this version. It went from 2.04.00 to 2.06.01 on the 13 Pro Max. So that should help with connectivity and improve cellular reception, but we'll have to wait a few days to see. If we go into settings, the Wallpaper Picker has been updated. In fact, there's a couple changes to wallpaper as well. So you'll see now we have a customize button for both the lock screen and the home screen. And if we go to Beta 1's Wallpaper Picker, you'll see it's a little bit different. Slight change there. And then if we add a new wallpaper, it's a little different as well. When adding a new wallpaper, it says pinch to crop. So you can pinch in and crop the image itself. It's just telling you about that. And we also have some new filters. We have duotone as we scroll through the filters, and also color wash. So Apple talked about this in the keynote, and we hadn't seen quite a few of the filters until now. So natural, black and white, duotone, or color wash. If we're setting the wallpaper from the lock screen itself, it looks a little different as well. If we hit the little plus there, maybe we set the astronomy wallpaper, we'll tap on done. You'll see it pops up a little box at the bottom that says set as wallpaper pair or customize home screen. So it's definitely easier to clarify what you're setting on each home screen or lock screen. So we'll go ahead and just set it as a pair. And in addition to this, the astronomy wallpaper now has a green dot indicating your location. So if maybe we go into, well, let's go into astronomy here, and you will have to pick Earth detail. You'll see that there's a dot indicating your location. You'll have to give it access. They've also updated the astronomy wallpaper on older devices where it wasn't showing with Beta 1. You'll see it's on an iPhone 8 Plus here. It's showing the location and everything else for Earth. So some of this wasn't showing on an iPhone XS or XR or the 8 Plus, and now it's showing. Now also on the lock screen, if you want to easily get rid of one of your wallpapers, you can just slide up now and then hit the little trash icon and tap delete. It will get rid of that wallpaper or the lock screen you've created. So it's much easier to get rid of them than it was before. Now within messages, there's some updates as well. Now some of it is specific to if you're using an eSIM and maybe have a regular SIM and an eSIM. You can now easily filter between devices and messages. You can see this was posted by 9to5Mac, and it shows what it looks like with different SIM filtering options. So this is great. A lot of people wanted it, and now it's here. Also, when you're deleting a message thread, if you tap on delete, it will recognize whether or not it might be junk or you don't have to report it. So this is on specific carriers around the world. T-Mobile has it, some others have it, but not all of them will have it just yet. But eventually you'll be able to report junk or not report it. Within the Home app, there's some new wallpaper. Tap on the three dots in the upper right, tap on Home Settings, and then scroll down, go to Choose from Existing, and you'll see a bunch of new wallpaper here. So you have a new landscape that's sort of blurred, and then a bunch of new gradients. So slight updates there. On Beta 1, under Settings with iPhone 11 and newer, if we went under Settings, go to Siri and Search, we now have the option for Siri call hang up. However, some of the language has changed here, suggesting it will work on older devices. And thanks again to my friend Steve Mosier for helping me find some of this. You'll see it says that you can now use Siri when you say hey in front of it to end phone and FaceTime calls on iPhone 11 or newer devices. It's also available on older devices when connected using AirPods or Siri-enabled Beats headphones. Voice input is processed on phone, and transcripts and call audio are not sent to Apple. So this is an option a lot of people wanted. It wasn't available on older phones, but using AirPods, it appears that it will be available. I wasn't able to get that to show up yet on an iPhone 8 or older devices, but if you're seeing it, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Within Mail, where we could swipe to make something unread, we can no longer do that with our swipe option. So you'll see it says Archive and Later. If we go over to our settings, our swipe options no longer have an option for unread email. So we only have None, Mark as Read, Flag, Move Message, or Archive. Maybe they'll bring that back, but if we go into Messages, tap Edit, we can select a message and then mark it as unread, but for whatever reason, that's not a swipe option. Now within Mail in Beta 2, Apple has added support for brand indicators for message identification. This is a standard that allows us to see whether or not the email was verified as coming from the owner of the logo that was shown on the email itself. This was found by Charlie Fish on Twitter, and as you can see, it's showing that it's certified that it's from Chase Bank. This is great when you get mail from different banks and different email from other people that you want to make sure is sent by who it says it's sent by. So I'm glad to see this here. Hopefully we'll see more and more of this from different senders. Within your iCloud settings, you can see backups here, and we've had backups for a while, but now we can back up over cellular, including LTE. Before it was just 5G, now we can back up using LTE or 4G, and it may be a little bit slower, but at least we have the option now. Within Apple Wallet, under your Apple Cash Card, there's a new updated sender request button. Before it was two separate buttons, now it's a singular button. Within Apple Card, we now have at a glance our weekly activity and daily cash. So that's something that's updated, very small, but super helpful. Within the native video player on iPhone, if you play a video, it's playing now. You can scroll through just by haptic pressing and then scrolling anywhere on the display now. You can also jump forward and back 10 seconds by jumping left and right from the edge of the screen. So that's something they've updated. Before you could just scroll at the bottom and swipe from the edge. Now you can press anywhere and then scroll through all of your footage. Within the Health app, we have vision prescriptions, and we had that before, but Apple has actually updated it with a little button here at the top instead of just text. Also, new data types have been added to Health, according to Apple, with new running power, ground contact time, vertical oscillation, running speed, and stride length, as well as AFib history. All of those things have been added. Apple talked about adding them before, and now if you're a runner, you can see that under your activity. If you're actually running, you'll have all of those different metrics available using watchOS 9. So that's something they've added. On iPadOS 16 Beta 2, if we go into Settings and then go down to Home Screen and Dock, if you have an M1 device that has Stage Manager, you can go to Stage Manager Settings, and you now have new options to hide the dock or recent apps. So you can actually change that. You'll see a nice new animation there, and it just hides everything like that. Also, if we go into an app when we're in Stage Manager, you'll see that it's easier to resize things and make it full screen. So even when it's full screen, you have the little option here to shrink the screen. It seems to work much better in Beta 2 than it did with Beta 1. Also, if you used a shortcut on your iPhone to create a poster board shortcut, it would allow you to edit the lock screen on an iPad with Beta 1. It was sort of a workaround. That no longer works on Beta 2 on iPad, so you won't be able to customize the lock screen font or anything anymore. It looks like it was just a bug in Beta 1. Now there's one Beta 1 feature I wanted to show you where you go into Settings, tap your name, go to Password and Security, and you'll see an option for automatic verification at the bottom. It allows you to bypass CAPTCHAs in apps and on the web by allowing iCloud to automatically and privately verify your device and account. This is going to be super helpful as different websites allow it, and we'll no longer have to use those CAPTCHAs. This goes along with the new password option where it's bioauthenticating instead of using a physical password. Within the code, Apple has removed any mention of iPod Touch, so that's no longer available since it's not supported. There's additional changes within the code where in the Home app, there's a new option for a resident key. However, I don't think anyone has this yet, so you can't actually add one. In the Weather app, it also appears that they're going to be showing you when you're getting closer to sun up and sun down, although I haven't seen that yet, but it looks like it's in the code. But if you've found that, let me know in the comments below. And there also looks to be a new game mode, maybe in the future. So if you go into Settings under Accessibility, you have the option to use a game controller with your device. However, when you're using that game controller, there may be a new option in future updates where we'll actually have a specific game mode. So that's something we could see very soon. As far as security updates, typically there will be some, but Apple won't tell us about any until it's finally released. However, there are known and resolved issues, and the first thing I noticed right away is Spotlight search is much faster in Beta 2 and works quickly. So maybe I search for the app files, it seems to work very quickly, and then recognize the app at the top and then anything that might be related. Prior to this, it was really slow and sometimes didn't work at all. As far as the storage issue, that does appear to be here for some people still, and with it being an early beta, I would pretty much just ignore it at this point. It's going to be slow, the overall system usage could be very high, but again, it's an early beta and Apple does not pay particular attention to these things, but make sure you report them in your feedback app. So if we go all the way to the bottom, it took a moment to load here. You'll see the overall iOS system seems to be smaller than usual at 6.39 gigabytes, but system data, we'll give it a moment to load, and it loaded and it's under 10 gigabytes at 8.14 gigabytes. So system data is okay for me. It may vary from person to person. As far as the phone getting hot or overheating, it definitely is warm, but it's not as warm as it was before. So there's still some issues with that. It's been very hot throughout most of beta 1. Now it's warm, showing you this different feature set in beta 2, but it's still not super hot compared to what it was with beta 1. However, there are still 51 categories of known issues in this update when it comes to the overall notes. So if you go into the feedback app, you can see the notes. Within feedback, you'll see if we scroll down, there are tons and tons of known and resolved issues. So this is very typical of early betas and even later betas as Apple resolves more and more issues. But there are 8 resolved issues, Swift UI, developer, and shortcut code issues that have been resolved, and 51 categories of known issues. So still a lot to be worked on here, but pretty good for an early beta. And that leads me to, should you install iOS 16 beta 2? And typically I say if you have to ask that question, the answer should be no at this point. In order to go back, you need a computer, whether that be Windows running iTunes or a Mac running Finder or using Finder or iTunes. That's the only way you can go back. So if you're a little nervous of running that on your main device, I really wouldn't recommend it at this point. However, if you have a secondary device and you don't mind leaving it here until we get further betas and a public release of the public betas or final public release, well then go ahead. As far as when to expect the public beta, Apple said it will be in July. So at this point, it should be in July, in a couple weeks, probably when we see beta 3 or maybe just before it. That's typically what Apple does. And then we'll have beta 3 usually within 2 weeks from now. So maybe on the 6th of July or maybe the 13th. Sometimes they push that out a little bit further. That's typically what Apple does every year. Now, as far as the final release, of course, we would expect that to be in September or late September at some point. Usually mid to late September, we'll have a final release to the public. Now, as far as overall battery life, that's not a concern with early betas, and it's been pretty bad with beta 1. You'll see today I'm already at 49%, and if we go to System, we'll go to Battery Life. Under Battery Health, I'm at 100% still, and battery life over the past few days has not been great. Usually about 4 hours and 4 minutes of screen on time, usually around 4 to 5 hours, and I'm usually around 75% usage at that point, going to bed with about 20 to 30% battery life left, where before I would be at 50 or 60. So definitely this is not great on battery, and again, it's an early beta and I don't expect it to be. As far as overall performance, again, it's going to have some issues. I noticed it was fairly slow on the iPhone 8 Plus when I was changing wallpaper. So if we go to change wallpaper, it did seem to lag quite a bit from time to time. If I go to add one, it seems to be okay right now, but again, from time to time, it's very slow. So being an early beta, it's processing a lot of information in the background. You can expect varied performance, but it's actually been okay with beta 1 on my 13 Pro Max compared to previous betas. I've run every beta Apple's ever had, and this one's actually pretty solid so far. But again, I would hold off installing it. So of course, if I find any additional features, I'll have a different video later in the week going over any additional features I've found. And of course, if you've found any, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. If you'd like to get your hands on this wallpaper, of course, I'll link it in the description like I normally do. And if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.